They're big, they're ugly, and they're hiding a terrifying secret. Giant king crabs are more than just seafood, they're the armored titans of the deep, lurking miles beneath icy waters. But here's the question, what does it actually take to catch one of these beasts? And what happens next? Once you know, you'll never look at your dinner plate the same way again. But first, did you know these crabs can regrow lost legs? Imagine battling predators and fishermen with that kind of superpower. Tell us in the comments if you've ever seen one up close. We'll be responding to your replies. But first, let me ask you something. Why are king crabs so dang popular? Well, giant king crabs, especially red king crabs, also known as Paralithodes kamchaticus, are prized for their sweet, tender meat and massive size, making them a global seafood favorite. In the US, they are a luxury item, with millions sold every year, contributing to a $12 billion industry. These crabs originated in the icy waters of the Bering Sea, but in the 1960s, Soviet scientists moved them to the Barents Sea to boost food supplies. And get this, in ancient Greek mythology, Karkinos was a giant crab sent by the goddess Hera to distract Hercules during his battle with the Hydra. After Hercules crushed Karkinos underfoot, Hera placed the crab among the stars as the constellation Cancer. So who knows, next time you look up at the night sky, you might just see the giant king crab Karkinos staring back at you. But for now, let's take a closer look at how they're caught in the icy waters of the Bering Sea. This first stage in this process is catching king crabs. In the next stage, we'll have a little look at how they're processed in factories. But first, imagine this. Freezing winds, towering waves, and a crew risking everything to bring up a catch that could make or break their entire season. This is the world of king crab fishing. It all starts on large fishing boats, like this one, purpose-built for this demanding job. The main tool of the trade is the pot, a huge box-shaped trap made from steel and nylon mesh. These pots are massive, weighing between 600 and 800 pounds. Each one costs between $1,000 and $2,000, and a single boat can carry 150 to 350 pots. That's an investment of over $300,000 just in traps. In addition to these box-shaped traps, some pots are disc-shaped, resembling a UFO with a bottom that opens to release crabs in one motion. These pots are dropped into the icy ocean depths in a straight line called a string, where the crew hope they come back up full of valuable crabs. This string method makes it easier to retrieve them later. The fishing season in Alaska runs from October to January, during the harshest months of the year. It's a narrow window, so every day counts. The pots are dropped to the ocean floor using something called a hydraulic crane system. Sometimes pots are lined up and prepared before being lowered, ensuring a smoother operation for the crew during high-intensity fishing moments. This crane, a lifeline for the crew, costs anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000. It's designed to handle the pot's massive weight, even when they're loaded with crabs. Inside each pot is bait, usually herring or codfish, chosen for its strong smell to attract crabs. The pots rest on the seabed, silently luring the crabs inside from where they gather at depths of 100 to 400 fathoms, which is 180 to 720 meters. Each pot is marked on the surface by a buoy to identify its location for retrieval later. After hours of waiting, it's time to pull the pots back up. This is where the danger and the reward peaks. The pots are lifted from the icy depths, water streaming off as it rises. This is achieved using a hydraulic winch or block, which is an essential pulley system designed to hoist the massive pots efficiently from the ocean floor. Inside, hundreds of crabs crawl over each other. The crew works like clockwork, carefully bringing the pot aboard, leaning it against the boat's side, and each person on board knows their role. It's a delicate balancing act between safety and efficiency. Wouldn't you agree? Every crew member wears bright, fluorescent personal protective equipment, orange or yellow suits that stand out even in dark or stormy weather. This is no fashion statement, it's for visibility, and visibility here can mean the difference between whether or not you see your family ever again. Without it, the crane operator might not see someone in harm's way. Add to that life jackets, gloves, and helmets all working together to protect the crew from the dangers of the sea and the sharp edges of the crabs and equipment. They work in freezing temperatures, surrounded by slippery decks and heavy machinery, knowing one mistake could be the end of everything. Anyhow, once the pot is secured on the boat, the crew springs into action. One person climbs onto the pot to unhook it from the crane. Meanwhile, others hold the pot steady to keep their teammates safe. The team works flawlessly to make sure the pot doesn't come crashing down, or worse, that no one falls overboard. These high-pressure situations foster close bonds among the crew, often making them feel like family during the grueling fishing season. After the pot is unhooked, a large rolling bin or tray is brought over. This bin, mounted on wheels, is positioned right next to the pot. The pot side is opened and the crabs spill out. But it's not a smooth process. The crab's sharp legs and claws often get tangled in the mesh, and the crew has to shake the pot to free them. As the boat sways with the tide, the crabs in the bin slide back and forth, making it almost look like they're dancing? Yeah, I know. Occasionally, some crabs escape the pots or trays, scuttling across the deck and adding an extra challenge for the crew to handle. Little do these critters know what horrors await them. Then comes the sorting. One crew member picks up the crabs, checking each one. All dead, damaged, female or undersized crabs are tossed back into the ocean. Why? Well, fishing regulations set strict size limits to protect younger crabs and ensure the population stays healthy for future seasons. While the sorting happens, the pots are prepared for another round. Buoys are reattached to mark their position in the water, and fresh bait is added. The bait is placed in a special compartment inside the pot designed to lure crabs without letting them escape. Watching crabs fall out of UFO-like pots during the unloading process is particularly visually satisfying, as the smooth release resembles nets in trampoline parks or rock climbing setups. Then, the pots are sent back into the ocean, starting the cycle all over again. Isn't it interesting? The boats used for king crab fishing are nothing short of incredible. They range from 39 to 246 feet long, or 12 to 75 meters, and are built to handle the brutal conditions of the Bering Sea. With powerful engines and hydraulic systems, these boats can stay afloat in rough waters. Inside, there are sleeping quarters, kitchens, and storage areas, allowing the crew to stay at sea for days or even weeks. Can you picture being out there surrounded by nothing but icy waters and endless sky, with the success of your trip hanging on every pot you pull up? King crab fishing doesn't just happen in Alaska. It's also big in Russian waters and international waters too. Back on the boat, the crew is in constant motion. The empty pots are checked for damage, repaired if needed, and sent back into the water. The work is repetitive, yes, but it's also full of tension. This is where experience plays a vital role. Middle-aged workers with years of practice under their belts are more likely to have the skills needed to handle the challenges of this job. Their expertise allows them to navigate the relentless physical demands and the harsh conditions of the Bering Sea with confidence. During the haul, the deck buzzes with activity. Birds, mainly seagulls, hover around the boat, hoping to snag a stray piece of bait or an unlucky crab tossed overboard. It's a chaotic scene. Screeching birds, slippery decks, and a crew battling the elements. The hydraulic crane is a vital piece of equipment. Without it, lifting the pots would be impossible. But these machines aren't foolproof. They need regular maintenance to keep working in the harsh saltwater environment. Think about it. If a crane breaks down, the entire operation can grind to a halt, costing the crew valuable time and money. Every part of this process is designed for maximum efficiency and safety. The bright PPE, the life jackets, the gloves, the careful handling of the pots, it all adds up to a system that works under some of the toughest conditions on Earth. The crew moves with a sense of urgency, knowing that the short fishing season gives them no time to waste. This is the life of a king crab fisherman. In reality, the Bering Sea is one of the most dangerous places to work, with freezing weather, rough waters, and unpredictable conditions. Yet these fishermen keep going season after season, braving the elements to bring king crabs to tables around the world. Their hard work makes this delicacy possible, turning a risky venture into a global treasure. These creatures, alive and brimming with primal energy, are destined for a journey that ends on your dinner plate. But what happens in between? Let's follow their path from ocean to factory to your fork. Once the large fishing vessel unloads, the crabs are carefully packed into cardboard boxes lined with plastic bags. These boxes protect the crabs during transit and keep them alive for what comes next. From here, they're loaded onto trucks and transported to processing plants, vast facilities designed to handle thousands of these sea creatures daily. Upon arrival, the boxes are unloaded and workers get to it, opening each box to reveal the still living crabs. It's a surreal sight. The crabs, sluggish at first, burst into action once the plastic is peeled back. Workers, clad in white personal protective equipment, PPE, think durable white overalls, gloves, and hard hats, pick up the crabs one in each hand and place them in bins filled with circulating water. The water, typically chilled with ice and sometimes salted, serves multiple purposes. It helps to keep the crabs alive, reduces their stress levels by mimicking their natural environment, and flushes away any debris or contaminants clinging to their shells. This maintains the crabs in optimal conditions before further processing. Once the bins are filled, they're covered to secure the crabs and then moved via forklifts to another part of the factory. Here's where things transition to a more industrial scale. The bins are transferred to conveyor belts overseen by more workers in PPE. The factory hums with activity, humans and machines working side by side. At this point, the crabs are no longer alive. The exact method of dispatching them can vary depending on the facility's standards and regulations, but it's generally performed using humane and efficient techniques. These often involve either immersing the crabs in boiling water to quickly kill and begin cooking them, or using high-pressure stunning systems designed to render them unconscious instantly. Both methods aim to minimize suffering while maintaining the quality of the meat. Now begins the intricate task of separating the crabs into their usable parts. Workers handle sections of the crabs, typically the legs, which are trimmed with sharp automated machines. These machines slice away rough edges to make handling safer during later stages. In another section of the factory, you'll find workers wielding large shears or knives. With precision and speed, they separate the legs one by one. And here's where things get a bit eerie. Even though the crabs are long gone, the severed legs sometimes twitch due to residual muscle memory. It's an unsettling reminder of the crab's once living state. The separated legs are then meticulously stacked into open wire trays, kind of like oversized document organizers you'd find in an office. These trays are uniform, helping the legs stay neatly arranged for the next step. 6 trays at a time are connected to a pulley system, which hoists them into large vats of liquid. The liquid in these vats is typically a cold saline solution used to clean the legs thoroughly and remove any remaining debris or contaminants. The salt water not only ensures cleanliness, but may also serve to preserve the natural texture and flavor of the crab meat before further processing. The trays are dunked repeatedly in these vats, with one particularly large vat bubbling like a pot on the stove. This stage might also involve cooking or sterilizing, although the specifics depend on the factory's protocol. After their dunking session, the trays are moved to the packaging area. Here, the legs are removed from the trays and placed into plastic bags. Workers make sure the legs remain neatly organized as they're sealed within the bags. Then, each bag is fitted into a cardboard box. The boxes are taped shut using automated machines, branded with the company's logo, and prepared for the final leg of their journey. These boxes, packed with crab legs, glide down a roller conveyor. The rollers allow the boxes to slide effortlessly toward their next destination. From here, the factory sells the processed crab legs to food distributors. These distributors supply local restaurants, grocery stores, and major retailers. So, there you have it. Now, starting at number 5 and counting down to number 1, here are the top 5 most intriguing and lesser-known fun facts about king crabs. Are you ready? Let's go! Ever noticed how some people are left-handed and others are right-handed? King crabs are no different. They can be left or right-clawed. Their crusher claw, the big beefy one, is used to smash open hard prey like clams and snails, while the smaller cutter claw handles finesse jobs like tearing softer foods into bite-sized pieces. But here's the crazy part. Their dominant claw isn't set in stone. Over time, it can switch sides depending on how they use their claws, making them nature's ultimate multitaskers. Okay, that was cool, but this next fact is even better. Imagine walking into a restaurant and smelling the food through your feet. That's life for a king crab. Their legs are covered in tiny hair-like chemoreceptors that pick up chemical signals in the water. These superpowered sensors let them sniff out food, detect predators, and even locate mates without using their eyes. Oh, and it gets better. They can differentiate between smells, meaning they know if they're walking toward a tasty clam or a lurking danger. Except when it comes to fishermen nets, I guess. They're pretty much underwater bloodhounds, just with claws instead of paws. Crabs are famous for their awkward sideways shuffle, but king crabs are a breed apart. Sure, they can move sideways like any self-respecting crustacean, but they also have the rare ability to walk forward and backward. Why? Well, their extra long legs give them more range of motion, making them the ultimate ocean floor navigators. This isn't just a party trick though, it's survival. Whether they're squeezing through narrow rocky crevices or fleeing a predator, their directional freedom gives them an edge over other species. Think of them as the SUVs of the crab world, while other crabs are stuck in reverse. Think you've got a lot on your plate? Female king crabs put us all to shame. They carry up to 500,000 eggs at a time. These eggs are tucked neatly under their abdominal flap, where the female diligently fans and aerates them for months. Imagine babysitting 500,000 kids, all while dodging predators and navigating icy waters. But here's the catch. Most of those eggs won't survive. It's a numbers game, and with predators, ocean currents, and sheer bad luck in the mix, only a tiny fraction make it to adulthood. I guess the moral of the story is that king crabs are relentless when it comes to ensuring their species thrives. If you thought molting was just about shedding a crusty old shell, king crabs are here to blow your mind. When these crabs molt, they don't just shed their exoskeleton, they shed parts of their internal organs, including the lining of their stomachs and parts of their gills. This process is their way of upgrading to a bigger body, but it's not without risks. After molting, their new shell is soft, leaving them vulnerable to predators until it hardens. They can even regrow lost legs during the process, making molting their version of a full-body repair shop. It's extreme body maintenance, and they've mastered it like no other. Bonus fact. Surprise! Despite their name, king crabs aren't true crabs. They're more closely related to hermit crabs. Biologists classify them as part of the superfamily Lithodoidea, whereas true crabs belong to the Brachyura. King hermit doesn't have quite the same ring to it though. Now here's a question. What would you do if you stepped on a king crab's claw? Comment below. I'm curious to hear your response. So, now you know exactly how giant king crabs are caught and made. And since you're already here, you might as well check out our other videos. The last video we posted might shock you.